I hate Copilot. I really, really hate Copilot. I don't know anybody who's asked for this to be pushed on them. I don't know why anybody would want this pushed on them. It drives me insane. Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Next Door NetAdmin. I am annoyed. I am annoyed with Microsoft Copilot. For those of you who are somehow blissfully unaware of what it is, Microsoft Copilot is Microsoft's new AI app. Glorified autocomplete, if you ask me, but that's neither here nor there. They've been stuffing this new AI app into everything. It's in Microsoft Office, even the fully paid versions. You now have an AI.exe process that launches for every single Office app. If you open Word, Excel, and Outlook, you've got 3 copies of AI.exe running in the background. Hooray! They've stuffed it into Microsoft Edge, so now it's part of the browser. And now they've gone even further, and they've stuffed it into Windows as an actual app, but not using any of the other distribution methods that they would normally use. This is what has me annoyed right now. As a progressive web app, fancy term for runs in a browser-like interface, as a progressive web app within Edge, you could remove it. You could hide it. There were registry keys that were there specifically so that you could say, turn it off, I don't want it. If you didn't want it, you could block it, fine. But now, as of the October 2024 security update to Windows 11, and then as of the November 2024 security update for Windows 10, as part of these security updates, Microsoft slid in some additional functionality to push out their new full-featured desktop application for Microsoft Copilot. And it goes out to everybody, whether they can use it or not. Because, fun fact, those users who are using Microsoft 365, if they have a Copilot license, currently they can only use it through the browser. It does not work with the new desktop app that Microsoft has pushed out to everybody. So if they open it up and try to use it, it don't work. It only works with personal accounts, even if you're paying for it on the corporate level. Who thought this was a good idea? Whatever. It's rolling out to everybody as part of a security update. It doesn't use any of the registry keys. In fact, Microsoft's article, when I found it, that was a challenge. When I found it, Microsoft's article explicitly says these are being deprecated in the near term. As in immediately. That's how near term it is. The registry keys don't work to stop it anymore. When the application shows up, you would think normally an application that gets automatically installed for all users would show up as an AppX provisioned package. We've looked at that before. It doesn't, and it's not. It's not a provisioned package. It's just been loaded into Windows somehow so that it'll automatically push to individual users. You can't remove it from Windows completely because it's not a provisioned package. The registry keys don't work to stop it. As an IT admin, this is upsetting. Microsoft does not care about corporate policy. They just want to force feed their new stuff to everybody. Drives me insane. Yes, I know. Just switch to Linux. Just switch to something other than Windows. For myself personally, that could be an option. That's not necessarily an option for all of my customers. So I have to figure out how to work with this anyway. I did figure out a way to work with it. Microsoft does have a way that they claim will prevent Copilot from being installed. I'm not sure I buy it, but even if it does install, it will make it impossible to run, and that much I can confirm. It uses AppLocker. I've never had to work with AppLocker before. It just hasn't come up. I know what it is, but I've never had to use it. If you're familiar at all with older versions of Windows, there's something called software restriction policies. You can actually classify software, tag it essentially, by file hash or executable name or publisher or attributes like this. And you can say, this is a known hash, it's permitted to run. Or alternately, you can say, this is a known hash that is bad software, do not permit it to run. But configuring AppLocker has the potential to go very wrong. Very, very wrong. Because if you get it wrong, and let's say you accidentally blacklist all applications on your computer, then you're not going to be able to run anything, are you? Including the applications that you would use to get rid of those policies. So it's not something that a lot of people mess with. And in older versions of Windows, it was also only an enterprise-only feature. You couldn't run this in a home edition of Windows. You couldn't run this in the professional version of Windows. It was enterprise only. As time has gone on, Microsoft has pushed this technology out through the lower editions of Windows as well. So you may or may not be able to configure it using the fancy tools. I say fancy with air quotes here. But policies should still be able to run. Okay. I tried it. I banged my head against it for a while. I did not have a great time trying to figure this out, just to tell Microsoft, I don't want your automatic pack-in running on these machines. Go away. But I did eventually figure it out, and I'm going to show you what to do, what I did wrong, and I'm going to tell you also how I fixed it so that you don't have to go through the same trouble that I did trying to figure it out. Shall we get started then? Great. Let's go get rid of Copilot. All right, here we are. We're on a Windows 11 machine where I can demonstrate for you how we're going to get rid of Copilot. First thing I'm going to show you, though, is this web page. We've got updated Windows and Microsoft 365 Copilot chat experience. Yay. This has a lot of blurb on it. Oh, it's changing to enhance, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Here also is where it says that, yeah, it's going to be pinned to the taskbar. Great. Fabulous. When is it going to happen? Well, it's coming with the monthly security update. October 2024, like I said. And then for Windows 10, it was the month after, November 2024. Not a great thing for them to do, to stuff it into a security update, but there it is for you. All right. And note that it doesn't support Microsoft Entra authentication. Users trying to sign in using Microsoft Entra or 365 will be redirected to the browser. Fine. Here's some policy information. And here is where you can remove or prevent installation of the Copilot app. This section here, to prevent installation, doesn't say that it will actually remove it. You can use this to prevent the installation of it, maybe. I'm not 100% convinced that this will prevent the installation, even though that's what it says it will do. But it will definitely 100% prevent it from running, which hopefully it will not be installed at all. But not having it run, well, at least that's something. And you can remove the Copilot app using a PowerShell script right here, but it has to actually be installed and present first in order to do that. And ideally, we'd like to have it not install at all. Okay, so configure an AppLocker policy. And it says here, note that the turn off Windows Copilot legacy policy setting and the Intune equivalent are going away. Fine, so we're going to use AppLocker instead. But how do you actually configure AppLocker? And is it portable? Now, it says use one of the methods listed in Edit an AppLocker policy. Some of this involves exporting to XML and then importing to XML through XML. The reason it does this is because when you configure your policy, your AppLocker policy, it's going to create a GUID, a globally unique ID for the rules. And when you do that, you may or may not have rules that already have that random GUID on another machine. Of course, if you're aiming to do what I'm aiming to do and, put this into an installation image, then there aren't going to be other rules with that GUID. But that is something that you can be aware of. But in order to configure this, I'm going to go and just open gpedit.msc, the local group policy editor. And I'm going to expand it here to make it easier to see. I'm going to go up to local computer policy, computer configuration, Windows settings, security settings, application control policies. Now you'll notice that earlier I said that this came out of a feature called software restriction policies. Those are still there, but AppLocker is under application control policies because it's the newer version of that. And we'll see that in the registry when we go look at this after configuring it. If you open AppLocker and take a look at it, all right, configure rule enforcement, overview. I happen to know that what we're looking for is going to be a packaged app rule. Right now, there's none here. If I try to expand it, there's nothing here. So let's right-click and go create new rule. We want the action to be deny. We're going to deny it to everyone. You have two items here, used an installed packaged app as a reference or used a packaged app installer as a reference. Well, that's odd because it just says add the below text to the policy. How can I actually add any of this text? This is all grayed out and I can't hit the thing to say use custom values. You have to use one of these as a starting point. If you use an installed packaged app as a reference, click select and then wait for it to bring it up. You can search if you have Copilot installed. I haven't removed it from this image yet, so it's actually here and I can select it. But if you don't have Copilot installed, you can really do any of these Microsoft ones, and I'm going to choose Narrator as an example just to show you what I mean. Okay, so we've got Narrator. If we use custom values, now I can actually edit these. And while Microsoft's text here is in all caps, you don't actually have to do it in all caps. Copilot actually doesn't have it in all caps. It has it in mixed case. So as long as it's CN equals Microsoft Corporation, O equals Microsoft Corporation, Redmond, Washington, US, which is what it is here, yeah, okay, then that'll work just fine. And instead of in all caps, I did just copy and paste that, but I'm just going to retype it in mixed case, Microsoft.Copilot. There it is. In the packaged version, if you highlight this whole thing and do star, which is what I'm trying to do right now, you'll notice that you can't type a star in. But you can. Why it does this, I don't know. But what you actually have to do is delete first, and then you can type the star. I don't know why you can't just type the star in over top of the numbers like you can on literally anything else, but there you go. Just hit delete, then do the star, and you can do it. Cool. Yeah, there's the primary condition. We're just going to call this something easy and simple like block Copilot. Hey, there you go. All right, you've got an action, deny everyone, block Copilot. That's great. So if I open up Notepad here so I can, oh, well, that's weird. I was opening Notepad. This app has been blocked by your system administrator. What's happened? This is the problem that I ran into when I first tried this. I'm just going to point out one thing. We're just looking at adding the below text to the policy. Microsoft here is assuming that you already have AppLocker configured, and therefore you're just adding a new blocked app. If you haven't done AppLocker before, if you just have one rule, you don't have anything that says allow anything at all. So everything will be blocked, even though you only have one rule that specifically blocks Copilot. What we have to do is come over here to Packaged App Rules, right-click it, and choose Create Default Rules. If you do that, you get a default allow. It's the default rule, all signed packaged apps. Great. So now I can run Notepad. There it is. It's the fancy new tabbed packaged Notepad. It will run now. Great. But if I try to run Copilot, which, like I said, is currently installed, that one is now blocked by the system administrator. That works to block Copilot the way we expect it to. The last thing that you want to do is come up here back to AppLocker. If you look at it, it says enforcement not configured, but rules are enforced. It is possible in a domain environment that you might have a group policy that says do not enforce rules. Okay, it probably doesn't matter, but what you can do is you can come up and hit configure rule enforcement, hit configured, and then it's set to enforce rules. Great, we're done. Now, this is good for setting up a local group policy to do what you want, but how do you actually bring this to a newly imaged machine? For that, I'm going to pop open the registry, and we can take a look at what this looks like in the registry itself. If you open HKey local machine and go to Software, Policies, Microsoft, Windows, I'm going to expand this so that we have a better view on it. Remember how I said that AppLocker originally was software restriction policies? Right here we have SRP v2. That's AppLocker, software restriction policies version 2. There's a reason why I mentioned it. It's almost like there's a history here. But if you open that up, you can see there's nothing under any of these except a default value of allow windows. But if we look at AppX, we have an enforcement mode that we configured. And if we expand it, we see we have two GUIDs. One of these is name, block Copilot. It has a description. It is a deny. That's cool. And this one, we can see in the pop-up, it says default rule. This is all signed packaged apps. Okay, cool. So these values are our actual rules. And what I would do is if I would right click on AppX and hit export, I'm going to put this on the desktop to make it easy to find. I'm going to call it no Copilot. And that will have exported that tree so that when I open this up, if I hit edit in Notepad and bring it up, you can see that this has the enforcement mode setting that we wanted. It has our GUID, both of the GUIDs, one blocks Copilot and one is a default rule allowing everything else. This is a registry file that you could use to inject an AppLocker policy into an installation image of Windows 11. Here's my caveat. I haven't tested that yet, but I know how to configure the AppLocker policy. I know how to get it as a registry edit. And so if I used this to put it into an image, I have every expectation that I would wind up with a local group policy, just as I configured here, that blocks Copilot and hopefully, according to Microsoft's documentation, prevents installation. And we could, just roll on with that, and hopefully we would never have to see or hear anything about Copilot ever again. It's a hope. But there you go. That is how I would configure an AppLocker policy and avoid the issue of blocking all packaged applications on the system by accident. Whoops. Hopefully you found that interesting or useful. If you have thoughts on how I could adapt this, make it more useful, if you have comments on the process, if you think I'm a schmo for hating Copilot so much and hating the way that Microsoft pushes it on everybody, you can tell me that too if you want. The comments section are open. Also, if you have thoughts on other things that you would like me to talk about or demonstrate, feel free to let me know about those also down in the comments section. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I am your next door NetAdmin, and we will see you next time.